You know, there's so many experiences that you bring to the table today. What were some of the most defining moments for you with these roles that really helped you determine the path you're on today?
One in particular sticks out. I was working for Darden Restaurants, brand new. It was my first director role. I had been in a lot of like manager roles, and everyone loved me. I got stuff done all the time. And when I got there, I really was taken under the wing by the then CEO, Gene Lee, who was amazing and mentored me. And I got to spend time with him. And the very first meeting I had, he said, "You're going to fail." He goes, I can see by what you've done so far that you're used to getting things done. He said, but the first meeting you have with all the other directors and this really legacy laden company and people who have MBAs and have gone to Kellogg to come up with these amazing plans, he's like, you're super tactical. And I just want to tell you that because the first time you go into many of these other directors, you need to watch yourself. And he was right. I went to my first director's meeting and came out crying.
Wow.
And it really was a lesson. I always say I got my MBA at Darden, as I was working there, because from that moment on, I did everything I could to learn how to write a business plan, how to write a growth plan, what strategy really was. It was asked not just like, I can do this for you, but here's why. Learning how to read the data and the analytics, learning how to do focus groups and, customer acquisition. I mean, I really spent a lot of time working on that. And it was amazing. And from there, we had some great successes.
Yeah. You know, I love, love, love that you've brought up this topic because I think that, first of all, a lot of CEOs hire marketing directors with CMO roles without strategy background because all the CEO knows from a marketing standpoint is tactics.
Correct.
In other words, they do not position it where it needs to be positioned within the organization. So that I think is happening in a lot of situations, and the CMO doesn't recognize yet that they are not strategic. They've just got a title. That's it. I think talk about a life lesson for him to be able to say that to you. But he knew that you had the ability to think strategically, which is why he hired you. So
Correct.
how connect the dots for us, if you will, on that hiring moment and what he saw in you that he knew you could get there.
So Darden has had this really extensive hiring process for directors and anybody who's going to be on the executive track. Because once you were in with them, that was the expectation. You would go into the executive track. And it was a full 3-day immersion process. And they would put you through the ringer. I mean, you sat in an office and worked with other directors and some actors, believe it or not, and they would throw everything at you. And then they would assess and have a 2-day debrief with you and ask questions around why you did certain things that you did. But when I was hired to work for the brands Capital Grill, Eddie V's, and Yard House, it wasn't the $1 billion ad budgets that I was given, like an Olive Garden and a Longhorn Steak. It was really, what are you going to do to help this growth? And I was able to lay that out for him pretty quickly in my interview. And so he knew that I had the ability to actually articulate a plan and then talk about, here's what I need to get it done.
So it's really interesting because they think growth. Marketers and sales and product have to think scalability to get there, right? So
Correct.
how does a marketing lead take the scalability that is needed and recognize that to get the growth goals that the board and the CEO expect? That's a
I
big
think
question.
that is a great question. And it's like the holy grail, right? Because everybody has these great ideas, and particularly living in the digital age where you can get, hundreds, thousands, even millions of likes sometimes, but it doesn't necessarily translate into sales.
Right.
I'm a big believer and had to learn this about test and learn and then replicate, test and learn and then replicate, and be able to work with your finance partner and say, okay, if I invest a little more, what am I going to get for that?
Yeah, I think it's great. Let's unpack a little bit more about what this might look like in practice. When
Mhm.
you think about scalability, what's the difference between growing fast and growing well?
Gosh, growing fast is just that. And, we actually experienced that at Spanx in the early days, literally planting a flag wherever we could, opening up accounts, not only in different geographic regions, but also in different verticals. And so at that time, we would create differentiated product to go into different verticals. So Neiman's was different from a Kohl's, which was different from a Bloomingdale's.
Mm.
We were able to do that really fast. When we got to a point, a $1 billion point where we could say, let's look at the business and what it's doing to the margin, we realized that even though we grew really fast with all of these different product lines, we needed to cut some of them out and
Mhm.
to say, how do we now take, unproliferate what we've done with all these, hundreds of SKUs and still continue to move forward? So
Right.
I think you just have to keep your eye on it because everybody wants, particularly with investors, if you have investors or, if you have a different audience, people want you to go really fast. I say speak the numbers and to help you grow well so that you're armed with the information.